Cartels are waging war in America, and it's time for America to wage war on the cartels, which we are doing.
America has unleashed its deadliest machine against organized crime, capable of wiping out cartel members in a single strike. Even El Chapo is said to be shaken. Yet the greater danger is that its power could extend far beyond the cartels to dominating all of Latin America. And the real question is, who's actually controlling it? The machine awakens. Picture this. It's August 2025, and the world's most dangerous drug lord sits in the most secure prison on Earth, surrounded by concrete walls so thick they could withstand a nuclear blast. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the man who once escaped from maximum security prisons not once but twice, now finds himself trapped in a 7x 12-foot concrete cell at ADX Florence, Colorado. But here's what's truly terrifying. Even from his supermax prison cell, El Chapo is witnessing something that would make any cartel leader break out in a cold sweat. America's new war machine against the cartels. We're talking about a technological arsenal that would make even the most hardened cartel kingpin lose sleep if they knew what was coming for them. The transformation didn't happen overnight. For decades, the United States treated the drug war like a traditional law enforcement problem. Arrest the dealers, seize the drugs, extradite the kingpins, and hope for the best. But by 2025, something fundamental shifted in the corridors of power in Washington, D.C. The fentanyl crisis had claimed hundreds of thousands of American lives. The cartels had grown into paramilitary organizations more powerful than some national armies, and the old playbook was gathering dust while America bled.
But if that would have happened, you would have had a lot less fentanyl deaths, I can tell you. You would have had very little fentanyl coming into the southern border. Last week, I also signed an order that will designate the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
This wasn't just political theater. When President Trump signed that executive order in January 2025, he fundamentally rewrote the rules of engagement. 6 Mexican cartels, the Sinaloa Cartel, Jalisco New Generation Cartel, Gulf Cartel, Carteles Unidos, La Nueva Familia Michoacana, and Cartel del Noreste were officially designated as foreign terrorist organizations. But more significantly, Venezuela's Tren de Aragua and the Cartel de los Solos were also designated as global terrorist organizations, marking the first time America had officially declared war on a foreign government's alleged narco-trafficking apparatus. But what does that actually mean in practical terms? It means that every tool the United States has developed to hunt down ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorist organizations can now be turned against the cartels. It means that the same intelligence networks that tracked Osama bin Laden to his compound in Pakistan are now mapping every safe house, every laboratory, every tunnel, and every financial network that keeps these criminal empires running. The technology at America's disposal is nothing short of extraordinary. Consider the MQ-9 Reaper drone, a machine of war that can operate for up to 24 hours at altitudes up to 50,000 feet, equipped with advanced sensors, radar, and high-resolution cameras. These aren't your typical surveillance drones. These are precision instruments of modern warfare, capable of tracking a target across vast distances and, if necessary, eliminating it with surgical precision. The beauty and the terror, if you're a cartel member, lies in the integration of these technologies. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has reported conducting 347 missions in support of southern border operations, including MQ-9 flights by both CBP and the CIA. But here's where it gets interesting. These aren't just random patrol flights. They're part of a coordinated intelligence-gathering operation that's mapping the entire cartel infrastructure in real time. Imagine you're running a fentanyl laboratory in the mountains of Sinaloa. You think you're safe, hidden away from prying eyes, protected by geography and armed guards. What you don't realize is that your operation is emitting chemical signatures that can be detected by sensors so sensitive they can identify fentanyl labs by their unique chemical emissions. Every time you fire up your equipment, every time you move product, every time you think you're invisible, you're actually painting a target on your back. The scope of America's surveillance network is staggering. Since at least the Biden administration, the CIA has conducted covert MQ-9 flights over Mexico to locate fentanyl labs and monitor cartel activities, operations that have only expanded under the Trump administration. We're talking about a persistent 24/7 eye in the sky that never blinks, never sleeps, and never forgets. But surveillance is just the beginning. The real revolution lies in how this information is processed and acted upon. Enter the world of artificial intelligence and big data analytics, where companies like Palantir Technologies have created systems that would make science fiction writers weep with envy. Palantir's Gotham platform aggregates data from diverse sources, crime reports, social media, financial records, license plates, to identify patterns, relationships, and potential threats. This isn't just about collecting information. It's about connecting dots that human analysts might miss. When a cartel operative makes a phone call in Mexico City, withdraws money from an ATM in Tijuana, and his vehicle's license plate is captured by a camera in El Paso 3 days later, the system doesn't just see 3 separate events. It sees a pattern, a network, a target. The financial tracking capabilities are perhaps even more terrifying for the cartels. Blockchain analysis tools, such as those developed by Chainalysis, allow authorities to trace cryptocurrency transactions on public ledgers. Remember, these criminal organizations move billions of dollars annually, and much of that money now flows through digital channels that leave permanent, traceable records. In 2024, illicit cryptocurrency addresses received $40.9 billion, with $10.8 billion linked to illicit actor organizations like cartels. But here's the kicker. Every single one of those transactions is recorded forever on the blockchain, creating an immutable record of criminal activity that investigators can follow like breadcrumbs leading straight to the cartel's doorstep. The transformation of America's approach becomes even more apparent when you look at recent operations. In August 2025, a CBP MQ-9 Guardian flew 600 miles into Mexican airspace near Mexico City, reportedly at the request of Mexican authorities. This wasn't some covert infiltration. This was open cooperation. Mexico essentially asking America to use its technological superiority to help solve a problem that traditional law enforcement couldn't handle. But perhaps the most significant development is how America has begun to dismantle the cartel's digital infrastructure. The takedown of EncroChat in 2020 serves as a perfect case study. European authorities cracked this encrypted platform, leading to over 6,500 arrests and the seizure of $900 million in assets by 2021. This operation demonstrated that even the most secure communication platforms are vulnerable to sophisticated cyber operations. The psychological impact on cartel members cannot be understated. These are people who built their power on the ability to operate in the shadows, to corrupt officials, to stay one step ahead of law enforcement. Now they're facing an adversary that can see through walls, track their every financial transaction, and infiltrate their most secure communications networks. The shift in American strategy becomes even more evident when you examine the military deployments. In August 2025, the U.S. deployed air and naval forces, including P-8 Poseidon spy planes, warships, and attack submarines to the southern Caribbean. This isn't law enforcement anymore. This is military-grade power projection.
President Trump deploying 4,000 U.S. Marines to Latin America, bolstering U.S. Southern Command to prepare for their Operation Eradicate the Drug Cartels.
The deployment includes the Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group and the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, comprising over 4,000 Marines and sailors. These aren't Coast Guard cutters looking for smugglers. These are warships equipped with Tomahawk cruise missiles, capable of long-range land attacks and advanced radar systems for countering threats from land, sea, and air. The message is unmistakable. America is done playing by the old rules. The war machine is awakening, and it's bringing to bear technological capabilities that most people can't even comprehend. We're talking about a coordinated assault on multiple fronts: financial, digital, intelligence, and potentially kinetic, that represents the most sophisticated anti-criminal operation in human history. And here's what should truly terrify anyone involved in the cartel business. This is just the beginning. The technology is advancing at an exponential rate. The legal frameworks are expanding to give law enforcement more tools, and the political will to use these capabilities has never been stronger. The old world, where a clever criminal could stay ahead of the law through corruption, violence, and cunning, is dying. In its place, a new reality is emerging, one where America's technological supremacy and unlimited resources are focused like a laser beam on dismantling these criminal empires piece by piece, dollar by dollar, and leader by leader. For El Chapo, sitting in his concrete cell, writing his desperate letters, this new reality must feel like watching the walls close in from every direction, because the machine that put him there is just getting started, and it's hungry for more. The Venezuelan Gambit. While the world focused on Mexican cartels and border security, a far more audacious confrontation was brewing in the Caribbean waters off Venezuela's coast. What started as a drug interdiction mission had evolved into something unprecedented: the United States military positioning itself for potential strikes against a sitting head of state accused of running one of the world's largest narco-trafficking operations. The stakes couldn't be higher. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, whom the U.S. accuses of leading the Cartel de los Soles, responded to American military deployments by mobilizing 4.5 million militiamen to defend Venezuelan sovereignty. This isn't just another drug war. This is a potential international crisis that could reshape the geopolitical landscape of Latin America. The confrontation reached a fever pitch when the U.S. doubled the reward for Maduro's arrest to $50 million in August 2025, citing his role in trafficking drugs into the United States. To put this in perspective, this bounty exceeds what the United States has offered for most international terrorists. The message is clear. America considers Maduro not just a criminal, but one of the most dangerous threats to American national security.
What I will say with respect to Venezuela, President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel.
The evidence against Maduro is staggering in its scope. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed the Drug Enforcement Administration seized 30 tons of cocaine linked to Maduro's network, with nearly 7 tons directly tied to him personally. The U.S. Department of Justice reported seizing over $700 million in assets linked to Maduro, including private jets and vehicles. But these aren't just accusations from American prosecutors. The allegations paint a picture of a government that is essentially transformed into a criminal enterprise. The U.S. has accused Maduro of orchestrating large-scale cocaine trafficking, including multi-ton shipments with the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC, a designated terrorist organization. The military hardware now positioned off Venezuela's coast represents an overwhelming show of force. 3 Aegis-guided missile destroyers, USS Gravely, USS Jason Dunham, and USS Sampson, are set to arrive off the coast of Venezuela, potentially as early as the weekend of August 23, 24, 2025. These vessels are equipped with some of the most advanced weaponry in the American arsenal, including Tomahawk cruise missiles capable of precision strikes against land targets. The naval deployment goes far beyond traditional counter-narcotics operations. The Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group, including the USS Iwo Jima, USS Fort Lauderdale, and USS San Antonio, is carrying over 4,500 sailors and Marines, including the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit. This is an invasion-capable force, complete with P-8 Poseidon reconnaissance aircraft, at least 1 nuclear-powered attack submarine, and a guided missile cruiser. Maduro's response reveals the depth of his panic. On August 18, 2025, he announced the mobilization of 4.5 million militiamen, part of the Bolivarian National Militia established by Hugo Chavez in 2005.
Las milicias territoriales activadas. Esta semana voy a activar un plan especial para garantizar la cobertura con más de 4.500.000 milicianos, Amelias, de todo el territorio nacional. Milicias preparadas, activadas y armadas.
While official figures claim the militia numbers around 5 million in a country of approximately 30 million people, this represents the largest military mobilization in Venezuelan history. But perhaps more telling was Venezuela's additional defensive measure. On August 19, 2025, Venezuela imposed a 30-day ban on the purchase, sale, and operation of drones in its airspace, citing security concerns. This ban reflects heightened paranoia about external threats, particularly given the U.S. deployment of spy planes and advanced surveillance systems. The Venezuelan government's rhetoric reveals their understanding of what they're facing. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil dismissed the U.S. drug trafficking accusations as pathetic and a crude political propaganda operation, but the massive military mobilization suggests they're taking the threat very seriously. What makes this confrontation particularly dangerous is that it's not happening in isolation. The U.S. narrative frames Maduro as collaborating with groups like Tren de Aragua and Mexico's Sinaloa cartel to flood the U.S. with fentanyl-laced cocaine. This creates a direct connection between Venezuelan state actors and the Mexican cartels that are already designated as foreign terrorist organizations. The intelligence gathering operation surrounding Venezuela is equally impressive. The deployment builds on operations like Operation Pacific Viper, where the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Stone interdicted 3,500 kilograms of cocaine and detained 6 Ecuadorian smugglers south of the Galapagos Islands in August 2025. These operations demonstrate America's ability to track and intercept drug shipments across vast oceanic distances. The technological capabilities being deployed against Venezuela represent the cutting edge of American military power. The forces are operating in international waters and airspace, focusing on intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, while serving as potential platforms for targeted strikes if ordered. The scope of America's allegations against the Venezuelan government is breathtaking. The U.S. has accused Maduro of being a central figure in the Cartel de los Soles, alleging he has orchestrated large large-scale cocaine trafficking operations. If true, this would make Venezuela's government one of the largest drug trafficking organizations in the world. But the Venezuelan situation also highlights the international complexity of America's new approach. Venezuela's response could escalate tensions, potentially involving regional powers like Russia or China, which support Maduro. This transforms what might have been a law enforcement operation into a potential geopolitical crisis. The psychological warfare component is equally significant. Maduro's rhetoric emphasized defending Venezuela's sacred soil against imperialist threats, framing the U.S. actions as an affront to national independence. This suggests that even a government accused of being a criminal enterprise will fight to preserve its power. The Venezuelan confrontation represents a new phase in America's war against cartels, one where the United States is willing to directly challenge foreign governments that it believes are complicit in drug trafficking. Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello asserted Venezuelan forces are deployed across the Caribbean to protect our sea, our property, indicating that Venezuela views the American deployment as a direct threat to its territorial integrity. What's particularly striking is the speed with which this confrontation has escalated. The reward for information leading to Maduro's arrest was initially set at $15 million in 2020, raised to $25 million in January 2025, and doubled to $50 million on August 7, 2025. This escalation timeline shows how rapidly American policy has shifted from diplomatic pressure to potential military action. The Venezuelan situation also demonstrates the global reach of America's new anti-cartel strategy. The U.S. deployment near Venezuela's territorial waters, approximately 2,500 miles of coastline, has sparked significant concerns about sovereignty violations. This shows that America's war machine recognizes no geographical boundaries when pursuing designated terrorist organizations. The implications for other governments are clear. If you're accused of supporting or participating in drug trafficking operations, you could find American warships off your coast and a massive bounty on your head. The Venezuelan confrontation has established a new precedent that fundamentally changes the rules of international engagement in the drug war. Scheinbaum's tightrope. While American warships circle Venezuela and bounties reach astronomical heights, the real diplomatic earthquake is happening in Mexico City, where President Claudia Sheinbaum finds herself navigating the most treacherous period in U.S.-Mexico relations since the Mexican-American War. The pressure is immense, the stakes are existential, and every decision could determine whether Mexico maintains its sovereignty or becomes a battlefield in America's expanding war against the cartels. The transformation in Mexico's position has been nothing short of dramatic. Under former President López Obrador's Mexico First policy, Mexico adopted a non-confrontational stance toward cartels, with AMLO explicitly rejecting U.S. military intervention and emphasizing national sovereignty. AMLO had famously declared that Mexico does not take orders from anyone and blamed U.S. social decay for the opioid crisis while resisting aggressive anti-cartel measures. But Sheinbaum inherited a completely different reality. Since taking office in October 2024, she has maintained a firm stance against U.S. military intervention while showing a greater willingness to cooperate with the U.S. compared to her predecessor.
If Mexico wanted help with the cartels, we would be honored to go in and do it. I told her that. I would be honored to go in and do it. The cartels are trying to destroy our country. They're evil. She's so afraid of the cartel she can't walk, so, that's the reason. And I think she's a lovely woman. But the president of Mexico is a lovely woman. But she is so afraid of the cartels that she can't even think straight.
The pressure she faces is unlike anything Mexico has experienced in modern history. The moment of truth came in August 2025, when reports emerged that Trump had directed the Pentagon to target Latin American cartels, including 6 Mexican organizations designated as foreign terrorist organizations. Scheinbaum's response was immediate and unequivocal. The United States is not going to come to Mexico with the military. We cooperate, we collaborate, but there is not going to be an invasion. That is ruled out, absolutely ruled out. But behind this public defiance lies a complex web of concessions, negotiations, and strategic surrenders that reveal just how much pressure America's war machine can exert without firing a single shot. The evidence is in the unprecedented extraditions that have become Scheinbaum's primary tool for appeasing American demands while maintaining the appearance of sovereignty. In February 2025, Mexico executed one of the largest single-day extraditions in its history, transferring 29 cartel cartel figures to the U.S., including notorious figures like Rafael Caro Quintero and the Trevino Morales brothers. This was followed by another mass extradition in August 2025, when Mexico handed over 26 more cartel members, including Abigail Gonzalez Valencia of the CJAng-affiliated Los Quines. What makes these extraditions particularly significant is how they were executed. Mexico used its national security law to expel rather than formally extradite cartel members, bypassing lengthy judicial reviews and traditional legal processes. This legal maneuvering allowed Sheinbaum's administration to avoid the appearance of capitulation while still meeting American demands. The pressure tactics used by the Trump administration were as sophisticated as they were effective. Trump threatened to impose 25% tariffs on Mexican imports starting March 4, 2025, citing Mexico's alleged failure to curb drug trafficking and illegal migration. Given that the U.S. is Mexico's largest trading partner, with over $1 trillion in annual trade, these threats created economic pressure that Mexico simply couldn't ignore.
El presidente Trump dijo, queremos ayudar a México. Y para ayudar a México, pues queremos mandarles, entre otras, tropas, si es que lo necesitan. Y yo le dije, no, presidente Trump, eso no. Podemos colaborar en muchas otras cosas dentro del marco de nuestra soberanía y de la territorialidad que a cada uno de nosotros nos corresponde.
But Sheinbaum's response to Trump's offer reveals the delicate balance she's trying to maintain. While firmly rejecting military intervention, she's simultaneously offered unprecedented levels of cooperation in other areas. Mexico has deployed 10,000 National Guard troops to its northern border to curb drug and migrant flows, partly in response to U.S. pressure to avoid tariffs. The sophistication of America's pressure campaign becomes evident when you examine the specific demands being made. Sheinbaum has proposed expanding legal action against U.S. gun manufacturers, arguing that 74% of weapons used by Mexican cartels originate in the U.S. This represents a strategic counter-narrative that attempts to shift blame back to the United States, while demonstrating Mexico's willingness to cooperate on shared problems. The technological aspects of U.S.-Mexico cooperation reveal how America's war machine operates even without military intervention. Existing U.S.-Mexico agreements allow for limited cooperation, such as DEA and CBP flights in Mexican airspace with Mexican approval. The August 2025 MQ-9 flight that penetrated 600 miles into Mexican airspace was reportedly conducted at Mexico's request, indicating that Mexico is essentially asking America to use its technological superiority to solve problems that Mexican law enforcement cannot handle. But perhaps the most revealing aspect of Mexico's position is what happened behind the scenes during the extradition negotiations. The U.S. agreement not to seek the death penalty for the extradited individuals addressed Mexico's constitutional concerns, facilitating the transfers. This shows how America's war machine has learned to use carrots alongside sticks, making cooperation more palatable while maintaining pressure. The internal political pressure Sheinbaum faces is immense. Mexican public sentiment, as reflected in official statements and media, strongly opposes U.S. military intervention. Yet Mexico's economic dependence on the U.S. gives the Trump administration leverage that makes resistance increasingly difficult. Sheinbaum's government has tried to frame the relationship in terms of mutual cooperation rather than American dominance. She has emphasized collaboration over coercion, advocating for joint efforts to combat drug trafficking while